Hi, welcome to the podcast Ease into Clarity. I'm Dr. Divi, family doctor turned intuitive coach, and I'm here to help you. In this podcast, we will learn mental techniques, emotional techniques, and spiritual techniques to change daily problems. So maybe it's your husband, your boss, your coworker, your kids, they're driving you crazy. You can email me any of your questions and I will use all the techniques I've learned over the years and help you. Grab your hot chocolate and make sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon. Ciao. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Dr. Divi, your host for the podcast. We're going to dive into this concept of something that I feel has been lost on the planet. The concept we're going to talk about today is the loss of the feminine, the loss of the flow, the loss of the freedom. And maybe you know what I'm talking about, and maybe this is a brand new topic to you. But this topic applies to both men and women. Because as a woman, I've got masculine energy and I've got feminine energy. And every man walks around with both too. So biologically born a female, you can also be raised as a male. And I often joke, I was raised as a guy. I can do math in my sleep, science in my dreams, and I can build a telescope if I have to. I joke when I say that. But that side of my brain is so deeply wired and hardwired because my parents thought that that was safety in the world. You're safer if you're this energy. And I know I'm not the only one. In fact, I know there's millions of women out there who feel the same way. How does this affect men? It affects men in an equally way, but flipped. Men are taught to deny their sensitivity. Men are taught that if they're emotional, there's something wrong with them. Men are taught that be hard, be tough, be the exterior, get a job. So what I want you to see is the loss of the feminine has affected both men and women. We could put this down to patriarchy, we could put this down to history of mankind. But at a certain point on the planet, the matriarchal role or the feminine role was apparently existed. And now we've switched to patriarchy, which is the masculine, which has been going on for millions of years. But what I would be open to all of us thinking is that we are allowed to have balance. We can have both because both are necessary for the functioning of our planet. Now let's talk about how it affects women first. For women, it goes deep into our subconscious. So as a lot of women who are in my age group, younger or older, can relate to, is we're often taught subconsciously and consciously that one of our roles is to support our male partner, but also to bear children. And then once we bear children, we got to bear more than one, because heaven forbid that be an only child. And then if we bear two girls, got to give the guy a dad. Oh God, I got to work for money. Oh no, I got to stay home to raise my kids. What I'm trying to show you is that we've been deeply trained into guilt. We can never get it right. We can never get it perfect. And so many of us as women run for this perfectionist. I got to have the Christmas tree up, the stockings up, Thanksgiving dinner, all with an apron and a smile on my face. We do all of this for God knows what elusive goal. But what I want you to show you is this deep in our subconscious from generation after generation after generation of training. And this training affects us so much that guilt we put on ourselves definitely impacts our family, our kids, our health, our bodies, and our mind. But here's the deal. All it takes is one shift of a thought. Guilt is a thought we can think, or we can think thoughts of love and flow and essence. Knowing that life is being lived through us, that we're not in charge of life. Knowing that life is flowing through us, that we've never done anything wrong. Knowing that we're brought to bear those children when it's time. These concepts that I'm describing can start to unpack guilt because we think that we're these characters walking around on the planet. But really what we're not taught is freedom of thought, freedom of choice, the idea of flow and essence being safe, the idea that we're free to be who we want to be, the idea that it's safe to just be, that we don't have to run and make that next kid, run and get to work and be home to pick up the kid at 2:00, that we get freedom. But each of us need to make that decision individually. Each of us need to realize that we want to give up guilt for freedom. We want to give up that idea that we're doing something wrong for flow. because this idea that we're doing something wrong, especially as women, is so deeply implanted into us. Now let's spend a few minutes talking about men before we go into some solutions. For men, this way of thinking equally affects them. They're often taught, okay, I got to get a good job. I've got to make 6 figures. I've got to protect the family. What if I lose my job? I've got to climb the corporate ladder. I'm never home for my kids, and I hope they still love and respect me, even though I'm not home. I didn't make enough money. I got laid off. What am I going to do? I don't have the biggest house in the block. These deep thinkings often affect men just as much as they do women in a different way. Men are deeply impacted because, like I said earlier, they're often not allowed to explore their sensitivity. Their main goal is to provide, which is a beautiful thing. But at the same time, what if they want to dive deep into their essence, maybe their spirituality or their emotional realm? And they think, okay, if I do that, it's going to make me lose my job, and what's going to happen? So what I'm trying to teach you is that this idea of the loss of flow has affected both men and women. Now, how do we shift that? We shift it from the simple idea that we have to do everything. We can shift it from this idea that we are responsible and there's a whole universe that's got my back. We can shift it by imagining, sensing, seeing, or feeling that grace is running our life. We can start to imagine that life just isn't this nuts and bolts of running around and making the dollar, but about moving through life with grace and ease and freedom. And sometimes it just takes that one little thought. I am allowed freedom. I am allowed grace. I am allowed ease. And that one little thought might give you the freedom to just have that one child and not feel like you have to have 3. That one thought of maybe a little bit of love can give you the permission to just have a couple girls and not think there's anything wrong with not having boys. That little bit of essence of flow can give you the idea that it's okay to work as well as be home with your kids, and recognizing that guilt is a choice. Let's go a little bit deeper. Everything begins with thought. Everything. So I can sit here thinking I have done something wrong by working full time while my child was growing up, and that automatically creates an inbred sense of guilt that I have done something wrong. But that doesn't feel like love, does it? There is a way that the universe thinks that's of love. There is a way that our minds can think of love. Just think of kids. They think of love all the time. So if I was to think of this idea that I worked full time and had a child that I wasn't home 24/7, how can I change that little thought that I don't feel guilt? It's actually super simple. I came onto the planet. My body bore a child, happens to be a son, and I was a working mom. And the gift I gave that son is the idea that women can work just like men. The gift I gave that child was his inner resources to take care of himself after school. The gift I gave that child was showing that women and men can play an equal role on this planet. The gift I gave that child was a happy mom, a content mom, because she was fulfilling all areas of her life. Do you see how that simple shift in thought can collapse guilt into empowerment? That simple shift in thought can open up my heart to more possibilities. See how simple it is? It all boils down to thought. Now let's look at the men who may be equally as affected in a different way. The man who thinks, I can't pursue that because I've got to make the money. I've got to climb the corporate ladder and not be home with my kids. I've got to get the biggest house in the block in order to be a success. A simple shift in thought. The man could start thinking, I am not the dollars I make. I am the love I give my family. I am not this house to compare with the Joneses. I am the provider of a warm home, maybe a bit of light and a bit of food. But beyond that, kids don't need a ton. I am the provider, but I don't need to provide what the guy down the street is providing. I provide a balance of love and freedom and connection with a roof over my head. And with this balance in mind, I can explore my sensitivity and take a class in crocheting. I can explore my sensitivity and read novels that my friend down the street isn't reading. There is no race to catch up to. There is no adrenaline junkie that tells I have to get this. And all of it boils down to change in thought. And when we change our thoughts, we change our reality. When we change our thoughts, we change how we feel. We change how we feel, we change our experience. We change our experience, we change what everybody feels around us. And then we can walk around the world holding our heads high with more freedom, more love, more ease. And we can recognize that guilt that we put on ourselves, whether we be man or woman, is a choice. And we can change it all. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you next time. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast, Ease into Clarity. It is such a joy, pleasure, and honor to be in your living room. What I would love is if you follow me on Instagram, DRDIVI, or go to my website, DRDIVI.com, or write a review. That would be even more amazing. Thank you. If you really enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share it with friends, family, tell them to follow me, because I think the more of us that listen to the fact that each of us can start to shift, each of us can shift mental things, emotional things, spiritual shift, to shift our daily reality. When more and more of us do it, we get a better planet. We get more love. We get more happiness. We get more joy. So I'd love it if you followed. I'd love it if you shared this, because it would be such a joy and an honor. And again, if you have a question, guess what? I'm here for you. So send me an email, easintoclarity@gmail.com. And as they come in, I will answer them in podcasts that are subsequent, whether it be your boss, your relationship, your husband, whatever. That's what I'm here for. Because the more of us that learn really simple mental techniques, really simple spiritual techniques, we change the physical reality we live in. Pretty soon we have more peace, more ease, more joy trickling across the whole world. Remember, there's a spiritual solution for every problem. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.